Hi, everybody. I want to change that sign in the background there and uh, murdered in the line of duty. I haven't gotten to that yet. I will. It has been so crazy. Let's see if everything is working. If you can hear me, there's always something to do. The line of duty. I haven't got to that yet. There's just so much to do, and well, we have, I'm pretty upbeat. We have really good news out of Washington, D.C., confirmation that I'll talk about today. Um, so here we are on 1,780 days. 1,780 days. See, I just turned myself off. Okay. I can see comments, and I know I'm late again. I'm burning midnight oil, but it just can't be helped. Today was um, just breaking news. Breaking news. It's been 1,780 days since Richard was forcibly removed from his barracks room. That never gets easy for me to say. Um, and that's because it was mutiny. It was absolutely mutiny. It was a betrayal. Um, and because the target was President Trump, and Richard was a witness, a whistleblower for what President Trump was investigating at the time in 2020. And so he was a threat to them. He was a threat, and their target was President Trump. They didn't want President Trump to move forward at all on any of the investigations to clean up our military, to clean up the criminal trafficking that they were engaged in, to clean up the misconduct that was on the bases. And this was under General Michael Garrett. There's several generals in all of this, but Michael Garrett was the Force general, and he played a dirty role. He played a very dirty role in covering up the cover up, the covering up of the cover up of the retaliation, the scheming and plotting to retaliate against Richard continuously and severely, that led to his forced removal out of the barracks room, that led to the taking of his life, and the cover up of the cover up, the cover up of the really evil crime. And this is internal. There's no other way to break the news to you. This is just, and I know for veterans, for us, for our family, who's always been Go Army, and especially for veterans who have served, it is, and Americans that pay for our military. That's why I absolutely loved having the military parade, because it is a chance for all of us who pay for our military to audit our military. They better parade our military out there. We want to see the equipment and everything, because it's been being stolen. It's just highway robbery, criminal trafficking everywhere you look, fraud, waste, and abuse. And so for President Trump, he signaled that the Army belongs to us again, that we have oversight of the Army. On the 250th birthday, we have oversight of our own Army. We can check them out. We can judge for ourselves how our Army is doing and how our equipment is doing. And any time that you have to have a presentation like a parade, there is a lot of extra cleaning up to do, right? Extra, you have to follow the SOPs. You have to make sure your uniform follows the regulations. You have to make sure that your equipment is working. You don't want your tank to stall during the parade. You have to make sure that the oil is changed, and that your planes are working, your pilots are working, your um, your golden knights, your golden knights are at their finest. We absolutely need to have oversight, um, parades, audits of our military, because the Pentagon has not been audited for years and years and years. I think way over a decade, years and years, and they get $1 trillion from us, and then they don't even go through an audit. I don't think that's right. I don't think that's right, knowing what I know right now, where, they didn't even bring back the equipment, not even night vision goggles from Afghanistan. And President Trump was asking, where's the equipment? Where's the night vision goggles? Where, uh, where is the organization to remove our Marines, our most valuable assets? You know, so all of it, he wanted all of it back home. He wanted it to be orderly fashion, and it was absolutely chaos. Maybe we should have more of those parades to, look at what those generals are up to, what they're up to, what they're doing with our money, with our most valuable assets, with our equipment. And so I really, I thought it was very, very moving. And all of this negative talk about it on the 250th birthday of the Army, I think we need to have it a couple times a year, or around the country, because we need to hold these generals accountable, because we know that Michael Garrett was up to no good, was absolutely up to no good, and he needs to be held accountable. I mean, he absolutely is a traitor and committed treason, in so many ways. I mean, he was over Fort Hood, and this is what everyone needs to know. What's going to happen is Fort Cavazos, that family is going to be relieved. Is going to be relieved to know that their name does not have to be associated with the cover up of the absolute cover ups of so much fraud, waste, and abuse, and major crimes. And, to have your name used as a band aid to divert attention from accountability from the worst type of crimes that were committed on Fort Hood, and just to delay accountability, or to really to avoid accountability altogether, and avoid any, a PR stunt. That's what it was, a PR maneuver, a PR stunt to get the public to not associate um, all of the crimes that were going on Fort Hood under General Michael Garrett. Um, that is a force com general. Why is that important? Because that general was over Fort Bliss too. So it is not a surprise. Thank you. Thank you so much, Martha. Thank you so much. Um, it was not a surprise, to see that this failed traitor leader was over both Fort Hood and Fort Bliss during the worst type of crimes. And Richard, of course, whistleblowing on the criminal trafficking. And of course, uh, with listening to the Guillen family, I think that Vanessa Guillen was reporting on way more than what we're being told. I think she was absolutely a whistleblower that they silenced, and it was absolutely a cover up of the cover up. Maybe a cover up of the cover up of the cover up. I mean, that's how deep this goes. And, four-star General Michael Garrett is absolutely now in, let's just say he's in eyesight now, because the family of the Cavazos family needs to be relieved that they're not being used and abused as a band-aid. Right now, should we honor that family, and name something glorious after that family and that service? Absolutely. Absolutely. But not as a band aid, not to really dishonor the family. It needs to return to Fort Hood, to that name where the disasters, the absolute terrible, evil crimes happened. And we need to clean it up and hold those accountable, recall them back so that they can be court-martialed. And you know, uh, President Trump has not let us down. President Trump has not let us down. He renamed Fort Bragg, which absolutely is in connection with the Michael Garrett too, and Mealy. General Mealy is very much in connection with Fort Bragg, and of course, we have so many that need to be held accountable for the evil that they did and the criminal activity that they did. And the criminal activity that they did amounted to treason, y'all. They were absolute traitors. It was absolute mutiny. And I would say that Major General Curtis Taylor of Fort Bliss is not much better. He's not much better. Think about he was like toast to send some of his troops to participate in that glorious 250th anniversary of the Army. He was like toast sending them there. You know why? Because he doesn't want oversight by the people, for the people, and of the people that pay for it, that pay for it. And so we need to check out our military. We need to enjoy our military, making sure that all the money that we spend to them is being used properly for the strongest, mightiest, uh, largest military in the world, that nobody will mess with us and nobody would mess with any American anywhere in the world, that they would absolutely not even think twice. You that's a lesson from President Theodore. He said, "Carry a big stick, right? Carry a big stick. Speak nice, but carry a big stick, right?" And that he did not tolerate anybody around the world, any country, anybody messing with an American. You could travel all around the world as an American and know that you had the full backing of our country. And that's why the citizenship of the United States was so absolutely uh, a treasure, an absolute treasure. And that is what President Trump has brought us closer to again. With this step of bringing back the name of Fort Hood as Fort Hood and relieving the Cavazos family, now we can take steps for legal accountability, because there's no legal accountability without the people. That's why we have juries. We are a country of the people, for the people, and by the people. And that's why we need the people to understand what was going on at Fort Hood, who was responsible, and we need to bring them back to active duty and hold them accountable with a court martial. And not just Fort Hood, but renaming Fort Hood is also helping everything going on at Fort Bliss, called the death camp. Because remember, at Fort Bliss, hundreds of thousands of children, 10,000 at a time, were trafficked through Fort Bliss. And of course, all the other criminal trafficking that was going on there, extorting from the American people. Really, it's, fraud, waste, and abuse. It was so unpatriotic, and treason, really, being traitors and treason, because anytime you do things like that, you weaken our national security, you breach our security, you breach the safety of our most valuable assets, because we are a volunteer army. We do not conscript. We are a volunteer army. And so we need to keep it that way. And the only way you're going to get volunteers is if you have an army, a military that is esprit de corps, Medal of Honor ethos, follows the SOPs, and also has the audits of the equipment, audits of, the parade. The whole parade was an audit of every uniform that any soldier was wearing that day. And so it was just magnificent. And it tells the world we're ready. We are ready. And the American people are behind our military, our army, and we celebrate them and we're behind them. So this is really very important, especially when we have um, this stuff going on right now with Israel and Iran, which I don't think we need to get involved in these foreign wars, right? We're sick and tired of the foreign wars. And so we'll see what President Trump he has um, he has the mandate. He is the president of the United States. He is commander in chief. He is the chief magistrate. He is the chief law enforcer. And so he has to make the decisions for the United States. And I've watched so many of his interviews, and he never, even years and years and years ago, old videos that you can watch, he never ever wanted to mix in the Iraq War. He never wanted to do that, and he never wanted to mix with this, get into a war with Iran, with Persia. With Persia, you have to understand it's so historical with Persia. So, and what the media tells us is very different from reality, isn't it? Because they have their agenda. They have their agenda and they are absolutely caught with false stories over and over and over again. And I can tell you the story that's still out there about Richard is a false story. But we have every day given you the truth, and they are absolutely proven to be misleading the public about Richard Halliday, because the DOD has now confirmed that Richard has been murdered in the line of duty on Fort Bliss. And this renaming of Fort Cavazos back to Fort Hood is a very good step for us. We're very, very happy. But that's not even the breaking news that I have today. The breaking news is, Washington, D.C. is absolutely focused on El Paso. Okay. And, I'm not at liberty to tell you all the things that they're doing because, you know, um, we don't want any judges sneaking people out the back door, right? We don't want we don't want that to happen. And, we can see what, what we're up against, right? So, but I can tell you this, that the 2028 stamp is a big, big problem for officials in El Paso. It is a big, big problem because 2028 hasn't happened yet. It is a clear, hard piece of evidence of tampering with official documents and tampering with timestamps. And if you want justice, you have to have timestamps. When did Joe Open Checkbook Spencer get his approval for the open checkbook? Oh, August 4th at 5:42 a.m. in the morning. That's odd. That's odd. With Patrick Crucius making 21-year-old making zero income, zero expenditures. But didn't he have a car? Didn't he need gas? Didn't he buy, purchase things in the Walmart before he went back in there? Um, you know, and what time did he do that? And how long was he in there? And when did he surrender the first time? When did he surrender the second time to a Hispanic officer? You know, when did Alexis Mayella marry Patrick Crucius's brother, Brian Blake Crucius? When did that happen? Oh, how long was Michael Mayella in the federal courthouse? Was he in there? What day was he in there during the hearings? Uh, the oversight of Patrick Crucius' case for the plea deal? Did he manage that? What day was that? What year was that? I mean, everything is a timestamp, and it's very, very important that people are held accountable for tampering with official documents and tampering with timestamps. So that is really, really good news. Of course, there's other things going on because of this connection now, this conflict of interest between agencies with the Texas Tech University Health Science Center. Um, a, there is huge conflicts of interest with that because Texas Tech University Health Science Center, and this is breaking news, gives a lot of money to El Paso Matters, to Bob Moore. And Bob Moore is up to no good. He's up to no good. His group targeted Richard as a witness and a whistleblower. They targeted him and they schemed to retaliate against him, which led to him being forcibly removed and losing his life. And then they schemed and targeted the case in order to cover it up. And of course, other officials covered up the cover up. And, and here it is, Texas Tech having this huge conflict of interest because they're taxpayer funded, okay? They're taxpayer funded. They also have some funds that they have from their, I wrote it down here to make sure, from their endowment, right? So, because I want to be really clear, most of the money they get is from us, from taxpayers, okay? They get money from taxpayers and they're giving that money. Yes, they get some from their, I guess, their interest from their endowment, funds from their endowment, but a lot of it comes from the taxpayers and they're giving it to El Paso Matters, who has consistently and disgracefully violated their 501c3, putting out false stories, misleading the public for political gain, uh, and of course for monetary gain. And Bob Moore, his group targeted Richard Halliday, the Fort Bliss whistleblower soldier. That has been confirmed. There's no oh, maybe they did. No, they did. It's been confirmed. Hard evidence through A&R Chavira Auto Group is one example. Just one example. And so, that's all being investigated or I don't want to I don't want to I don't want to give them too much. I don't want to give them too much. But I want the public to know what is going on and check it out yourself. The Texas Tech University Health Science Center gives loads of money. They get taxpayer money, so it's like money laundering, right? It's like money laundering. I don't think it is. Well, I don't know. I guess they can do it legally, but they get taxpayers' money and they funnel it to El Paso Matters that has a 501c3 that they get tax exempt. They don't have to pay the taxes, and then they violate. Then they violate their requirements for a 501c3. And not only that, they're committing major crimes. Um, so and that's been confirmed. And so why and that gives El Paso Community Foundation, which is the mother company of El Paso Matters, okay? They get a quid pro quo. They get a quid pro quo. They have then, um, because Texas Tech University Health Science Center wants positive media coverage, right? And that media coverage is like advertisement for them, that media coverage. So, this conflict that is very serious conflict of interest between an agency and Texas Tech University Health Center is another corroborating piece of evidence that all the reason that Washington, D.C. needs to come in to El Paso and Fort Bliss. And we have confirmation of that today. So, as we are allowed to tell you more, but there is a shaking going on. I think in Minnesota too, right? In Minnesota, also with Kash Patel coming out to this Senator Grassley and giving the evidence for the uh, the tampering of documents, official documents again, being at driver's license so that they can interfere with the 2020 election. That's all coming out. And so I wrote a long piece um, telling people the point about that is that the FBI were the ones allowing this fraud to happen. Okay. And of course, Director Patel has to come out and expose it. Otherwise, he's going to be complicit with it, right? So we are not just, we've been right all along. That's what we're saying. We're not pulling this out of the air. We have hard evidence, and now the hard evidence is coming out finally. And in order for the media to cover it, it, they'll cover false stories in a lickety split, in a lickety split. But this, what Kash Patel is doing and getting the media to cover it is huge. It's so huge. And it tells you that there is overwhelming evidence that confirms that what happened with the CCP, with the FBI, that tells you that the FBI were playing along with the CCP. And that's what we've been saying that's happening in the El Paso field office with these dirty agents. These dirty agents are with the Mexican cartel, and the Mexican cartel are absolutely in the web of the CCP. That Mexico is in the web of the CCP. It is, it is way more dangerous to the United States than Iran. Okay. Absolutely. Because the CCP was able to use their influence and use their money to mess with it's like an act of war, right? When you mess with an election in our country like that and you're a foreign country, this is like an act of war because you want to take over parts of the country, go in, chip it away, chip it away, chip it away, and it is absolutely a war maneuver. And so that's why that is so important for people to understand and to get our military um, back on the right footing, to hold these leaders accountable. to let the leaders that um, might be a little weak, right? Might be a little bit morally weak, character weak, that might have entertained, oh well, I'd like to pay off this and pay off that. Maybe I'd like to have a vacation house or do the, they get everything. We get everything, but humans are just not satisfied. They're not content, right? They just, and so human nature always needs to be checked. That's why we have the checks and balances. And we need to know ourselves, that we do need to be checked. That's why we have our families. It's the greatest institution that God ever made, was the family, because it's your mom and your dad. And when you're in a decent family structure, they check you all the time, that you make sure that you're on the right path. And that's why we need godparents. Of course, from the Christian point of view, that's why we need godparents, to make sure that you're on the right path, to check you all the time. And I don't think it's not a new thing that human nature has a tendency to, like in Pilgrim's Progress, take the shortcut, or be influenced by the Vanity Fair or greed or whatever vice. And so, I don't think it is an insult to say to these generals that they need to um, be looked at all the time and checked all the time, because they've been an absolute disaster for our country. And we can still respect them. Absolutely, we respect the office of the general. We respect the uniform of the general. We respect the stars of the general. But we have to know that they're human and they need to be checked. And if they're committing violations, if they're committing serious crimes, and in Richard's case, absolutely enormous crimes they committed to cover up of the murder in the line of duty, the forcible removal of a whistleblower soldier, the retaliation against him, before they removed him and took his life. It was just absolutely brutal. And they misused their power, their official status, it, which is such a huge crime. And so we need to hold them accountable for that, so that we will have better leaders, and a stronger military, and that we will be ready, a safer country, right? So, uh, yeah, this is very good news to have Washington, D.C. I don't think President Trump is letting us down at all. Matter of fact, he's like the greatest president. I mean, I don't know of anyone first in first in war, first in peace, first in the hearts of his countrymen. Right? That's what they used to say about President George Washington. And I've read, well, I just love George Washington so much, and I've just read so much about his character and his letters. And I just went to Mount Vernon. Oh, I don't know how many times I've been to Mount Vernon, so many times. The character is all over that beautiful piece of property, and how he felt about people, um, and all the statuses, and how he, of course, was present during the time that slavery was legal, and what he did night and day to work to organize the defeat of slavery. Um, and you read it in his letters. It is really, and to give them a good life. You can't just say, "Oh, I'm going to let these people go and they just have to fend for themselves." The education and the training and the jobs have to be there in Washington, D.C., to be that manufacturing place that would absolutely defeat slavery altogether in a peaceful way without a civil war. And they didn't heed his voice. They did not heed his voice. And then, of course, 70 years later, um, we had the Civil War. And if they would have just listened to Washington, um, it would have been very quick and and a golden age, an absolute golden age. He was really just an amazing president, and I hope that everyone takes time out to read it for yourself because there is a lot of smear campaigns against him. Um, so to have Washington D.C. Um, give us this kind of news today is really wonderful. So all eyes are on Fort Bliss. All eyes need to be on El Paso. And we need DC. There's so many reasons why there needs to be accountability in El Paso, right? Um, we have the tampering in the FBI field office by these dirty agents. We have the DA's office with 2028 stamp. We don't have legitimate DAs. We don't have legitimate judges in the magistrate court. We don't have a qualified, legitimate chief medical examiner. We we have somebody that is very dirty, Veronica Escobar. I don't know. Um, uh, we'll see. We'll see what's going on with her. That absolutely approve the funding for these judges that are not legal. That absolutely disenfranchised El Pasoans from the right to vote for their judges, and absolutely denied us a congressional hearing for Richard um, multiple times, and played a role in the misleading of us in this case. So yeah, she's up to no good. She's absolutely up to no good. And then, of course, I need to look at Michael Maiella's role with the Walmart mass shooting case and his family, including his son. Of course, his daughter married Brian Blake Crucius during that whole time. During that whole time. Can you believe it? And they absolutely had information about Patrick Crucius, and the Bob Moore had all this information and did not report on it, kept that from El Pasoans who were paying millions and millions of dollars for the Walmart case, and it was stalled. And it didn't have to be stalled because they had major evidence that, you know, Michael G. Maiella, the son, being employed in the DA's office under Jaime Esparza with James Montoya, being employed with Walmart, with cybersecurity in Walmart, being employed in the FBI office, which was corroborated again this week. The knowledge that they knew Michael Maiella, sister, was marrying Brian Blake Crucius. And what's going on with the FBI's? They didn't want to tell people. They didn't want to prosecute that. So or expose that, right? Expose it. So this is uh, just corroborating evidence upon corroborating evidence. And now we have this link with Texas Tech University Health Science Center. That is really shocking. It's so shocking, y'all. And as soon as I'm at liberty to tell it to you all, I will. But you have to understand it's your taxpayer money that's being given to El Paso Matters that is completely disgraced and up to no good and violating their 501c3. And that's really something I'm absolutely can make clear to everyone today, because that is just not right. That is not right. And for them to get that kind of money, and then El Paso Community Foundation, who was being investigated, and we know that they were fraudulently distributing the Walmart victims' funds to unqualified individuals. We have hard evidence of that, and that's why Yvonne Rosales, the real reason we believe, and because of the hard evidence, that Yvonne Rosales was targeted, and they schemed to remove her and replace her because she was investigating. This is uh, hard evidence. She was investigating this uh, this fraud in the wrongful distributing of over $12 million. It was over $12 million in that victims fund. And so that is huge. Um, Things that are, we've known that information, and it's all kind of coming together. Who was working with who was targeting Richard, when did they start targeting Richard, why did they start targeting Richard, and now you know that he, upon evidence that he was a whistleblower, because they started targeting him in 2019. Okay, they started targeting him in 2019. So this clearly tells you that he was a threat, and the only thing that would threaten them would be a witness, a whistleblower to what President Trump was investigating. And their main target, and that's what you see with this whole Chinese CCP. I don't like to say Chinese because it really is a CCP, right? The CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, behind this driver's license con job to mess with the election of 2020, fraudulent documents, again, with the FBI, with the American FBI. That, that shows mutiny again, a mutiny. So, you know, there were individuals in our agencies and institutions that were serving foreign and domestic cartel-linked criminal trafficking enterprises that include big government contracts, and they didn't want that gravy train to end. They didn't want that gravy train to end. And President Trump says, "Look, we have a deficit. We have a deficit. Our country is going to go under if we don't get this under control." And so, he has. Uh, so he was investigating. He tried to stop the flow. Um, Now we're in big trouble. $37 trillion in debt. There's no other way to explain that to anybody. It's huge amounts of money. Just go look up what $1 trillion is, and that's not including unfunded liabilities. The last time I looked, it was like $240 trillion of unfunded liabilities. That's like Social Security and Medicare and all of that. So we need to have one big golden age. We need to have manufacturing again, and we need to have um, other incentives, like these tariffs, the tariffs and other, because that's an incentive to build in the United States, to create jobs in the United States, real jobs from manufacturing something, in order to get us back on a right footing as a country. And so it really is all coming together. And I think he has these golden cards now. I haven't heard about that. I thought they were going to come out for very wealthy people to invest in the United States. And that just shows you that he is brainstorming. He's brainstorming on what to do. And I think in our situation, we can't really even afford Uh, we'd be really stupid to try to go to war with Iran. Financially speaking, we'd be really stupid. We need to have a golden age, and we need to have manufacturing to get us out of this situation. And we need to have accountability, right? Because the reason why we're in this situation is because of all the fraud, waste, and abuse, the grand theft, uh, the grand theft larceny that has been going on inside of our agencies and government institutions. So, you know, um, eh, things are looking really, really good. I can tell you that. From the parade to the FBI, that's a big deal what Kash Patel just did. Director Patel just did. It's a very, very big deal. And then the renaming of Fort Cavazos to Fort Hood is a very big deal. Legally speaking, it's a very big deal, and for public perception. And for reality, we need to start facing reality. We need to have that epistemological self consciousness. This was a lesson I learned quite a bit, and I used to use it with the kids, this big fancy word just to get their attention. Epistemological self consciousness. That's why I know it. I used it as a mom to say, know yourself, know yourself. Um, that we are in debt. We have some problems we need to work on. The military has some problems to work on, but we are the oldest country in the world. We still have our Constitution. Our Army is 250 years old, which is amazing. And we need to celebrate that, and we need to work very, very hard to save our country because there's no other country like it. And this whole thing with the kings, no kings or whatever, I mean, they couldn't even have that kind of display, because they were holding things, images, and all kinds of stuff that were just not cool at all. I mean, it was just vile and vulgar, and they could never get away with that if we did have a king. And the thing is they wanted to put in a king, right? Like Kamala Harris not even getting a vote. That would have been like a queen, right? And then, of course, you have Canada, who they love, and Canada has a king, but they just say no tyrants up there. They don't say no king because they have a king, right? I mean, it's just they really play us for fools, and I don't think it's working. And I don't think I'm hoping the whole Iran war is not going to work, that we will have a peaceful end to it. Um, but politics is very dirty. It's the dirtiest thing in the whole world. It's so dirty, and it's made up by a lot of lawyers. And I'm telling you, the JAG on Fort Bliss and I don't talk about them very often, but they are just so dirty. They were so dirty. Those individuals, um, yeah, we need accountability, and um, believe you me, those that are um, tasked with interpreting the law to people, or leading, trying to protect, the JAG they were tasked to protect Richard, and they didn't. They absolutely targeted him and participated in the cover up of the cover up. And they targeted us. They told us the most ridiculous things. And yeah, so the JAG is definitely up to no good. And so that we get lied to all the time. We need to really discern. You know them by their fruit. You know them by their fruit. And don't yeah, so we're trying not to, being very patient, not trying to do too much of the personality thing. We're just trying to judge by the fruit. And to have these EOs that we have now, the designation of the Mexican cartel as a very, very, very bad T group, um, and the renaming back to of the post so that we can get a legal accountability is a good thing. And then these investigations that are going on right now, um, uh, we'll see. We'll see. Sounds really good. And of course, that parade. And let's just keep going. Let's just keep going for this golden age. And we really, uh, really feel like we're on uh, uh, stepping forward. And that's a very good, a very good feeling, y'all. It's a good feeling. We want Richard's remains. We want accountability. And, and we want a strong country, a strong military, a strong country, and agencies that are held accountable and do their job. So thank you so much. God bless you, and I will be back. Thank you, Anicia, for coming on and your prayer and your heart, your love, and Martha too. Thank you so much. God bless you. See you tomorrow. Bye.